Hey guys, so this video might be a little long because I'm going to do two books, and I wanted to tell you I am so sorry I can't be there. I thought after I had that concussion that it would be a much better year, and it turns out that it has not been. So before I do your book talks, I just want to say I am so proud of you all with the maturity you have shown and your willingness to follow the high expectations you know I have for you. I honestly, this is the best year and the best group of kids I've ever had. So give yourselves a pat on the back, turn to your neighbor, pat them on the shoulders, whatever. But please know that there's a lot going on, and I'm going to tell you about it at the end. And knowing that you guys are there doing exactly what you're supposed to do really helps take a lot of the stress away from what I'm dealing with. And I apologize if the camera wiggles. I'm holding my phone, and I have all three of our dogs on the bed with me. So yay, puppy crazy. So the first book we're going to talk about is In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. This is one of 4 covers that I have in my classroom alone. Most of you have probably been made aware of the murder of the Clutter family in Holcomb in the 1950s. The anniversary of the murders is this Friday. So we are going to talk about In Cold Blood. In Cold Blood was the very first novel of its kind. It created what's called the genre of true crime. And if you look over at the shelf in the back below Lori Halls Anderson, there's now another container with the genre label true crime. And when I ever get back to school and actually have a chunk of time when I'm not trying to frantically do everything else, I'm going to start pulling the true crime books out of the rest of the shelves and put them there, because I know a lot of you really enjoy this. And you can thank Truman Capote for it. Truman Capote was an American author. He was kind of an abrasive jerk, actually. And he decided from New York City he was going to come out to middle of nowhere, Kansas, and he was going to investigate these 4 murders, which had made the national news and had everyone stumped. And so he came out with his good friend Harper Lee, who went on to be quite the famous author in her own right. You'll learn more about her in high school. And he interviewed people. And from there, he wrote his book In Cold Blood. Truman Capote would probably have told you he solved the Clutter murders. That's not the case. But he definitely got into the heads of the murderers way more than the investigators probably did. So the section I'm going to read to you is Truman Capote's description of Garden City circa the early 1960s when he showed up. So, sorry, this is kind of an awkward position. The distance between Olathe, a suburb of Kansas City, and Holcomb, which might be called a suburb of Garden City, is approximately 400 miles. A town of 11,000, Garden City began assembling its founders soon after the Civil War. An itinerant buffalo hunter, Mr. C.J. Buffalo Jones, have we ever heard of him? Yeah. Had much to do with its subsequent expansion from a collection of huts and a hitching post to an opulent ranching center with razzle-dazzle saloons, an opera house, and the plushest hotel anywhere between Kansas City and Denver. In brief, a specimen of frontier fanciness that rivaled a more famous settlement 50 miles to the east of it, Dodge City. Along with Buffalo Jones, who lost his money and then his mind, the last years of his life were spent haranguing street groups against the wanton extermination of the beast he himself so profitably slaughtered, the glamours of the past are today entombed. Some souvenirs exist, a moderately colorful row of commercial buildings known as Buffalo Block, and a once splendid Windsor Hotel with its still splendid high-ceiled saloon and its atmosphere of spittoonness and plotted palms endures amid the variety stores and supermarkets as a Main Street landmark, one comparatively unpatronized, for the Windsor's dark, huge chambers and echoing hallways, evocative as they are, cannot compete with the air-conditioned amenities offered at the trim little Hotel Warren, or with the Wheatlands motels, individual television sets, and heated swimming pool. So these are all landmarks that still stand today that Truman Capote is describing, visiting, and being aware of. And I don't know if you picked up on his tone, but he's kind of being a jerk. Like, he's definitely a New York City snob, and he is making his thoughts well known. Anyone who has made the coast-to-coast journey across America, whether by train or by car, has probably passed through Garden City, but it is reasonable to assume that few travelers remember the event. It seems just another fair-sized town in the middle, almost the exact middle, of the continental United States. Not that the inhabitants would tolerate such an opinion, perhaps rightly, though they may. Honey, I'm doing the video for the kids. Can you wait a minute?
No.
Check on my sewing machine. Check over there on the sewing machine case. I am so sorry. She's so sick. Though they may overstate the case, look at all over the world, and you won't find friendlier people or fresher air or sweeter drinking water. And I could go to Denver at triple the salary, but I've got 5 kids, and I figure there's no better place to raise the kids than right here. Swell schools with every kind of sport. We even have a junior college. And I came here to practice law. A temporary thing. I never planned to stay. But when the chance came to move, I thought, why go? What the hell for? Maybe it's not New York, but who wants New York? Good neighbors, people who care about each other. That's what counts. And everything else a decent man needs. We've got that too. Beautiful churches, a golf course. The newcomer to Garden City, once he has adjusted to the nightly after 8 silence of Main Street, discovers much to support the defensive boastings of the citizenry. A well-run public library, a competent daily newspaper, green lawn and shady squares here and there, placid residential streets where animals and children are safe to run free, a big rambling park complete with a small menagerie, see the polar bears, see Penny the elephant. This would be the zoo. And a swimming pool that consumes several acres. World's largest free swimming pool. Such accessories, and the dust and winds and probably ever-calling train whistles, add up to a hometown that is probably remembered with nostalgia by those who have left it. And that, sticking out in the way, for those who have remained, provide a sense of roots and contentment. I really think it's interesting that Truman Capote describes Garden City this way in the early 1960s in his book, when a lot of this is exactly how I feel now in 2019. I've told several of you I came out here in 2009 to teach, and I intended to follow the wind. I'm kind of a tumbleweed in that regard. I just sort of go with the flow. And I thought, I'll go 2 or 3 years. It seems like a nice place. Okay, honey, I'll be right there. And I didn't realize that, like a tumbleweed, I would eventually land up against something, put down seeds and roots. And I can't imagine living anywhere else. I've had several opportunities to go back to the town where I grew up. My high school principal called me and said, hey, you want to teach English here? And I said, hey, no. And I mean, I love my hometown. It's beautiful. My people are there, my godson, my best friends, minus the one in Alaska. But Garden City is home. Garden City is just the most beautiful place in the world to me. And you guys are a huge part of that. So not to get too sentimental, it's been a long day. So apparently my daughter is dying of thirst. I'm going to stop and I will splice the 2 videos together. So if there's a little awkward jerkiness in the middle, forgive me.